Greetings, everybody, and welcome to tutorial 4 in the FBIS training series. And today, the focus is on the site dashboards, both the single site and the multi-site dashboards on FBIS. So a site can be searched for in different ways. The easiest way is just to navigate the map and click on the site that you're interested in. But you can also use the search bar and enter the site code for the site that you're interested in. And in my case, I'm interested in a site in the Upper Berg River catchment, close to a little bridge crossing on a tributary. So first up, you're presented with the site code and the number of records and the number of taxa that are found within that site. And if you click Site Overview, you get a little overview dashboard about the site at the top on the right here of the screen. Now, on the top of the overview dashboard are some basic details about the site, including the site code. Every site on the FBIS platform has a unique site code, which is a combination of the first letters of the river name that it's near to, and then a number as well. If your site had a description, then that description would be shown here. You also get the spatial coordinates, the ecoregion, in this case, the Southern Folded Mountains, the geomorphological zone, and the name of the river that the site occurs on. You then get a breakdown of the data available at that site. And you can see in this case, there are no data for anurans, adult odonates, algae, and invertebrates. There are data for fish as well. You're also able to, the next panel down here is where you can add new data to the site, for example, SAS data or other kinds of data. And finally, if available, there's some climate data particularly for that site down at the bottom of the site overview dashboard. The next thing that you can do is you can use this little green dashboard button to drill down into the detailed dashboard for the site. And this is the most detailed information available on the FBIS platform at the site level. So I'm just going to walk you through it. First, we'll go down through this column on the left here. And this is a bit more detail available than on the overview panel. You have a filter history. In our case, we didn't really use any filters, but if you had used filters to query the data, and that's how you arrived at your site, the paper trail of those filters would be showed here, but it does show that the code of my site, and it also shows the data sources that were used, that were turned on when I was selecting that site as well. The site can be seen in a little map panel on the single site dashboard. And then there's an overview of a lot of the most useful information associated with that site. Without going into too much detail, once again, you can get the site code that's given to the site by FBIS, but you can also see the original site code. This would be the site given, the code given to the name given to the site by the data owner, the person who uploaded the site. And if there's no specific description for a site, it's literally just given the name of the river that it falls closest to in the FBIS rivers layer. Then there's some more information about the river and the geomorphological zone down below that. And then there is information on the freshwater ecoregion within which the site's found, the province or neighboring country, in our case, the Western Cape. The South African ecoregion, it's in the Southern Folded Mountains, the different levels of catchment hierarchy within which the site occurs. And then there's information on the water management area and the number of species and taxa that have been recorded at the site. If available for those taxa, there's then a little breakdown of the taxonomic data according to origin, so the number of non-native and native species records, endemism, using the FBIS endemism categories, which we touched on in a previous tutorial, and conservation status, the number of taxa falling within the different conservation status categories. Then you can see all the site visit data for this particular site. You can see that this site was actually sampled on a few different dates. And you can see right at the bottom here the occurrence data for the different taxa of fish that have been recorded at this site. These data can be downloaded, the occurrence data, as well as a host of different other attributes that go along with the data, many of which are the attributes that we've just been through now, in a spreadsheet, can be downloaded as a CSV file, and we're going to have a detailed look at CSV files in an upcoming training session. But for now, I just wanted to show you that if you click on the download a CSV button, you're just asked what the purpose is of your download, and you just select your purpose from a drop-down, and then if you hit download, that'll send a message to the FBIS administrators, who will then allow your download to take place. All right. Then right at the bottom of the dashboard here is the metadata table, and this is the source reference from which the data for this site come. In this case, the data are from a peer-reviewed scientific article by Jeremy Shelton and colleagues from the year 2018, and there's other information about that reference in the metadata table, which again can be exported as needed. Then on the right of the detailed site dashboard are some visualizations of the data. At the top, pie charts are used to illustrate a breakdown of the data with regards to origin, endemism, conservation status, sampling method, and the biotope in which the data were collected. And then the occurrences are shown over time. The site was sampled in 2015 and in 2016. Taxa present at the different sampling times are shown using different colors. And just to let you know that these graphs have a little bit of flexibility. For example, I know that the indigenous species are Pseudobarbus bergi and Syndelia capensis, but that Oncorhynchus micus, or the rainbow trout, is non-indigenous. So if I wanted to, I could turn off that non-indigenous species, and then my graph will show only the two indigenous taxa. It then packages the data by origin, so native and non-native species, and then it summarizes it by the endemism categories and also by the conservation status categories as well. And that's really it for the single site detailed dashboard. But before we leave it, I'd just like to show you that you can use this little tab here to download the chart as a SVG file, which can then be inserted into Microsoft Excel and Word. And that applies to anywhere where you see this little button, be it a table here on the left or a graph on the right. Okay, so let's return to the map interface. And this time, let's have a look at the multi-site dashboard. So that was the single site. Now we're next going to have a look at the multi-site dashboard. And I think what I'm going to do this time is use my map to navigate into Cedarburg Wilderness area, just to the northwest of Cape Town. And what I always like to do before a new search is just to use the little reset button here at the top of the search bar, just to make sure that you don't have any filters from your previous search still activated. So we can zoom in on that Cedarburg area. And in particular, let's have a look at the area around the Seerflay River. I know that there are some interesting fish data there. And what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to use the lasso tool to draw a polygon around the data that I'm interested in. So I'm particularly interested in all of the data records in the Seerflay River and also down into the Groot River before it joins the Doering River. So if I encircle those in with my lasso and I hit update search, then it will feed back information just on those records. and you can see straight up in the search result tab that there are 190 records from those sites. You can also see that there were 59 sites and a total of 233 taxa. So this is going to be interesting. So the next thing I'll do is I'll hit, once again, the sites overview button to bring up the quick overview of the sites. And you can see that this time there are data available for multiple biodiversity modules. If you remember last time, it was just the fish. Now we have data for fish, invertebrates, nothing for algae, but we do have adult odonates and anurans as well. So we get our filter history, we get a breakdown of our biodiversity data, very quick breakdown by origin, endemism, conservation status, and the number of taxa within each module. And we're then able to drill down into different, more detailed dashboards. So in my case, I'm a fish guy. I'm always most interested in the fish. So I'm going to once again drill down into the detailed dashboard for the fishes of this area. I know there's a critically endangered fish that I'm particularly interested in, but you could just as well do the same thing for invertebrates or for adult odonates or for anurans as well. So if I hit dashboard, that's going to take me into the detailed fish dashboard for those sites. And now you can see things get a lot more exciting. Once again, here on the left, we have our filter history, and we have a little map showing the location of our sites, which we can save if we want to. We have that overview information of origin, endemism, and conservation status, a breakdown of the number of fish taxa within the different categories. For example, how many non-native records are there in those sites versus native records. At least in this area, we still have the fish data being dominated by native species, which is a good sign. But if we look at occurrences, you can see that the overwhelming majority were for critically endangered taxa, which if you look at that in combination with the fact that most of the records are from micro-endemic level 1, so highly endemic species that are probably native and probably critically endangered, is immediately really useful information from a conservation perspective. Once again, there are data on when the different sites were visited, which can be drilled down deeper by hitting the See More tab. And then the occurrence data, all the occurrence data for those sites, which again can be downloaded as a CSV file. Once again, at the bottom here, we see the metadata table. In this case, looks like the majority of these data are coming from GBIF, the Global Biodiversity Information Facility. And then up on the right here, we once again get a breakdown of the data by origin, endemism, conservation status as pie charts, but also the different sampling methods and biotopes, if they are available for those data. And this is where the power of the FBIS visualization tools becomes apparent. So you can see immediately that the data for these sites span a really nice time period of almost 60 years, the first records being collected in 1964, all the way through to last year, with some peaks in sampling efforts, which in themselves are quite interesting. You can see when the different species were recorded, and you can see that this is a really nice, diverse suite of species that have been recorded in these sites. You can have a breakdown by native or non-native species. And once again, you can interact with these graphs to maybe turn off native species to see when the non-native species really appeared on the scene. It's very interesting to see that, clearly some of these sites were sampled as long ago as the 60s and the 70s, but non-native species only really seem to appear in the area a little bit later. Again, you can visualize the data over time as packaged by endemism or conservation status. And what I'm seeing here is fewer and fewer records of these critically endangered taxa at these sites. And that's really an overview of the multi-site dashboards. Again, these graphs can be downloaded using little download options, and the multi-site dashboard can then be exited. You can get back to the map by closing that panel, by closing your panels, and by refreshing, hitting the refresh button, and then you're ready for your next search. So that's it from me on the site dashboards. And in the next tutorial, we're going to be having a look at the taxon dashboards. Thanks very much, and I'll see you all next time.